The child at the playground wouldn't stop calling him Dad. At first, it felt awkward then terrifying because when he finally asked the child's name, it was the same name carved into a gravestone he visited 10 years ago. Ethan Mercer hadn't planned on stopping at the playground. He didn't like places filled with laughter because laughter reminded him of what he no longer had, and that evening his apartment felt like it was closing in on him, the walls pressing closer with every thought he tried to ignore, so he walked without direction until he found himself sitting on a bench beneath a dying tree, staring at the dirt, when he heard it, "Dad." The word small and careful, as if it was afraid of being rejected. Ethan didn't look up because children misidentify strangers all the time and it meant nothing, but the voice came again, closer, and when Ethan finally raised his head, a boy stood in front of him, no more than 6 years old, too still, too quiet, dressed in clean but old-fashioned clothes, his knees scraped without blood, his wide unblinking eyes locked onto Ethan. Ethan told him he was mistaken, that he wasn't his father, and the boy smiled and said Ethan always said that, sending a chill through his chest, before a woman called out from across the playground that it was time to go, and the boy turned, paused, and said, "See you tomorrow, Dad," before disappearing into the crowd. That night Ethan dreamed of a small hand slipping from his grip and woke gasping at exactly 2:17 a.m., the same time he always woke, and he avoided the playground for a week, but when he returned, the boy was already there, sitting on the same bench, waiting, telling Ethan he was late without even looking up, and when Ethan asked how he knew, the boy said Ethan walked slower when he was tired of pretending, and when Ethan asked his name, the boy smiled wider and said Ethan had named him, and when Ethan laughed nervously and called it impossible, the boy's smile faded and he said Ethan had forgotten again, a word that twisted something deep inside him. From that day on, the boy appeared every time Ethan came, always alone, always watching, never playing, never speaking to anyone else. And he knew things no stranger should know, that Ethan slept with the lights on, that he hated hospitals, that he woke every morning at 2:17, until Ethan snapped and demanded to know who he was, and the boy tilted his head and said he was the reason Ethan didn't drive at night, making Ethan's legs feel weak. Ethan asked other parents about the child, but they shook their heads and said there was no kid like that there, yet every time Ethan turned back, the boy was closer, and one evening Ethan noticed the boy didn't cast a shadow as the playground lights flickered, and when the boy said Ethan had promised to come back, Ethan whispered that he didn't know him, and the boy replied that wasn't what Ethan had said in the car, and memories crashed in like knives. Rain on glass, a vibrating phone, a child crying in the back seat, and Ethan collapsed onto the bench as the truth surfaced that 10 years earlier he had been a father, his son's name was Oliver, and on that night Ethan had been drunk, angry, distracted, never seeing the red light, and Oliver hadn't died instantly, and Ethan remembered screaming before the silence, the court calling it an accident, while Ethan drowned the guilt in alcohol and never visited the grave again. The next night the playground was empty, no parents, no children, only Oliver standing near the swings asking why Ethan had left him alone, and Ethan sobbed that he had been scared and couldn't live with it, and Oliver asked if that meant Ethan had let him die alone as the swings began moving on their own, chains groaning, and Oliver said he had waited where Ethan last saw him before the lights went out all at once, leaving only moonlight and rusted metal and fogged breath, and Oliver whispered that Ethan had finally remembered, standing too close now, his face wrong, skin stretched thin, eyes ancient, calmly listing the smell of alcohol, the phone, the screaming Ethan ignored, as the ground darkened beneath Ethan's feet with fresh tire marks. And Oliver softly said he hadn't died on the road, that Ethan had dragged him here, to the only place he felt safe, as cold hands grabbed Ethan, too strong, shadows of other broken children moving closer, and Oliver whispered that Ethan didn't get to leave and didn't get to forget again, as something wrapped around Ethan's throat, a seatbelt pulled tight, and the world went dark. Months later, security footage showed nothing unusual as Ethan walked into the park alone, sat on a bench, screamed, smiled, talked to empty air for 6 hours, and collapsed, and the playground reopened with new paint and new swings, but children still pointed at empty benches, waving and softly calling, "Dad," and if someone listened closely, they could hear a man's voice answering from just out of sight, promising, "I see you. Don't worry. I'll watch you forever."